So they start to gain personality around 5 or 6 weeks old. And generally, in those first training sessions, when you're alone with them, you can get a very good sense of what their personality is going to be. Some dogs are jumping all over you to try to get the treats. Some dogs are afraid. And some dogs are just chilling and they're sitting there and they're patient and they're waiting.
You're listening to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I am Anke Herman, and I'm your host. Hello and welcome, Christina. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, and we have such a lovely topic today, so I'm really looking forward to this. But before we get into this, let people know where in this lovely world you're based and what's your business with dogs.
Yeah, so I am calling in from Winsted, Connecticut, and I work for ECAD, which stands for Educated Canines Assisting with Disabilities. And over the last 30 years, ECAD has trained labs and golden retrievers to become service dogs to help people with disabilities. So, more specifically, I work in their puppy department. So, I am in charge of all of the breeding that we do, socializing the young puppies and getting them ready for their foster homes where they learn basic obedience and house manners.
Oh my God, this sounds like the dream job come true, right? I'm in my mind is now you in a puppy pile, right? So it's like,
It
um,
is like that some days for sure.
um, I would expect you to kind of think, yeah, but it's not all cuddling with puppies. So what are the parts of this job that somebody that probably wouldn't expect are part of it?
Yeah, we are responsible for like doing everything as far as their care. Of course, some of that does mean playing, and it's probably the most fun part of my job when I'm introducing them to new things. We play little movies and music for them, as well as show them the vacuum for the first time. But there is a lot of behind the scenes, of course. You are dealing with live animals, so sometimes things come up unexpectedly, medical things. We do a lot of clearances for our breeders to make sure that they are in tip-top shape and healthy to be bred. So we're doing a lot of calls with vets and appointments. We're doing a lot of recruiting volunteers to be fosters and also come help socialize the puppies. So there's definitely a lot of aspects of it, but definitely the most fun part of my job. And the part that I do find myself doing quite often is hanging out with the puppies. We are breeding all of our dogs to become service dogs. So we are starting their training. I know this is surprising, but from day one. So it is my job to kind of oversee that, okay, they're being held, they're comfortable with us holding their paws and their ears so that way they're not like wrestling their client later when they are trying to be groomed. We do, like I mentioned, a lot of like, here's this vacuum. Here we're going out in public for the first time. Like, experience all of this stuff for the first time. And it's my responsibility to make them feel comfortable and make them have fun while they're experiencing it.
I love it. I love it. So what are some qualities that one of your puppies, like your puppies, you know what I mean, needs to have to be suitable as a service dog? Because I would imagine not any dog. And also, are there differences depending on the disability?
Absolutely. So ECAT has always been very flexible with what our temperament in our dogs could be because we work with such a wide range of people with disabilities. So I would say our most common clients are people with mobility issues. We deal with a lot of veterans with PTSD as well as children's with autism and Down syndrome. So that's like our most common clients that come in. However, it was always the mission of ECAD to help people, maybe who were rejected from other programs. Pretty much if we can feel like our dogs can do the task that they are looking for, we are happy to place a dog with them. So we are looking for dogs that have a pretty good temperament. We do want our dogs to be able to go out in public so they can't really be fearful of the world around them. A nice, what I like to call it, especially when I'm socializing with my puppies, a nice neutral dog. You want the dog to enter a new space and you want them to like be observant, but you don't want them to like be lunging into the place with excitement. and you don't want them to be like super fearful where they're like hiding behind the client, because this dog is supposed to give the client confidence and comfortability to go into the world. So that is what we look for. And we have found that labs and golden retrievers are like our main dog breeds that are wonderful at that. They provide loyalty, affection. They have just a very good pace when they're walking around with people. They require exercise like other dogs, but are maybe not so high maintenance and high energy. So we found that to be a really good balance. And then, yeah, just looking for like a calm temperament, able to settle in public. Um, but like I said, we can be kind of flexible as well with if dogs are super excited, well, then we just find the client and home that's going to be really good for that energy level.
Mm. So at what point, at what age as a puppy would you be able to tell whether, what, I mean, I don't know, like I've had like this one in particular, one of mine, he came to
Mhm.
me, well, I don't know, maybe the vet said maybe 6 weeks, something like that, like all younger, like tiny, right? And I'm like, well, you couldn't tell, by that. At what age do you find that it becomes kind of clear whether a puppy will kind of fit those parameters or not?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So they kind of start to gain personality around 5 or 6 weeks old. And right around that time, we start training them sit for the very first time. And generally, in those first training sessions, when you're alone with them, you can get a very good sense of what their personality is going to be. Some dogs are jumping all over you to try to get the treats. Some dogs are afraid, and some dogs are just chilling and they're sitting there and they're patient and they're waiting. So you can get a pretty good sense immediately. However, a puppy's life from the day they're born to the time they're a year and a half when they're maturing is kind of a roller coaster. So even my most excited puppies will calm down, and my calmest puppies will have a few months where they're like super energetic. So they do go through different periods of their life where their behavior changes, but those initial sessions that I do with them really do give me a good idea of what I think they'll be like when they do mature. And even if we have very excited puppies or very fearful puppies, we give them a really good chance. We kind of will make a lesson plan for them and be like, okay, this puppy is a little uncomfortable in public. So here's the lesson plan. Let's check back in 3 months and see how they're doing. So we really give them a good chance to see if they can overcome their fears and become more confident, or calm down a little bit if dogs in public excite them. And then generally by like the year to year and a half mark, we'll kind of make that final decision of like, do we think this is the right path for you? Are you able to go out with a client and behave and be calm and not be pulling them? Of course, all dogs have behavior things that are just going to come up, whether it's prey drive or interest in other dogs, and sometimes that's really hard to work through. And if we can't, we will just release the dog as pets. So we do have a release list on our website, which we'll talk about later. But anyone interested in getting a release dog from us can join the wait list there, and they just get adopted as pets and they go off and live their life.
Well, that's kind of like, yeah, I mean, imagine that, like you get this train, like, because they come better trained than any other dog, right?
They do. They have a lot of training, especially if we put a lot of time into them. They have like all of their medical histories up to date, and we have keep very thorough notes. So whoever adopts them gets very thorough notes of like, well, this is what excites them, or this is what they're fearful of, and this is how we've started to work through it and how you can continue.
That's fascinating. So at what age, I mean, at what, like you have them from when they're like really tiny until they go into a foster home. And is that right?
Yes, yeah. So I start even before day one because I work with the breeders as well and prepping them to, either do artificial insemination or natural breeding, and then taking them to their appointments. I help in the whelping. So my department takes care of that, as well as when they're born, from the time they're literally a day old to about the time that they're 8 to 10 weeks old. That's when we're doing like, here's the vacuum, movies, sounds, new things. Everything's new for a puppy. Then at that 8 to 10 week mark, they go to a foster home. So we have a bunch of lovely volunteers in the area that volunteer to take these puppies home into their houses 24/7 for about 6 months. So that is they come back when they're 8 months old. So they're teaching them house manners and basic obedience because we have a setup here that looks like an open room training facility. It does not look like a house. So we need the puppies to learn, what do I do when my handler's making dinner or watching TV, and where am I supposed to go to the bathroom, and what am I supposed to chew on? What's my toys? So our lovely nursery teams take care of that for us. They come back when they are about 8 months old and they go into their advanced training. So now they live on campus in a kennel and they will stay doing that advanced training from 8 months old to about the time that they're 2 years old, which is when they get ready to graduate with their client and get paired. And that is a 2 week span of time where the client comes in and lives on campus, learns how to take care of the dog, how to work with the dog, and they work on their specialty commands. So we have the people come in, the clients come in for interviews, and they will share with us, like, I want the dog to remind me to take my medication or wake me up from a night terror. So during that kind of 2 week span, they are working on those specialty commands.
I'm like fascinating, right? And I'm like, how do these foster, I mean, that's always my thing. Like, if I can't even picture it. Like, if I take in like a 6, 8 week old puppy, you're not getting that back. So,
I
I
know.
mean, how do people not get attached to that puppy?
The beautiful thing is that they do, and that's okay. And we give them that space to be able to bond with the puppy. They have to have a bond with the puppy. That's how you're going to form a really good relationship. That's how you're going to help the puppy overcome their fears and become confident and become really good, obedient dogs. So you want them to have that bond. We have people that do it and they give the puppy back and there's always tears. They do love that puppy no matter what. We have people that are like, that was enough for me to do it once. And then we have people that keep coming back. So they return the puppy, and a week later, they're picking up another puppy, and you kind of start the whole process over again. But we give them time for that closure. They do know right about the day that the puppy's going to come back, like very early, so they have time to plan. Um, and yeah, we expect them to need that closure. And yeah, it's not for everyone. Definitely takes a special kind of person, and we're so grateful for all of the people that do that. I had one volunteer tell me that because the puppies are coming back right at that like 8 month mark, sometimes they're like kind of excited for them to go, because when they're puppies and they're young, they're literally like sponges. They're like, I'll follow you, I'll sit all down. And like I said, it's like a roller coaster. So right around that 8 month mark, they're like starting to become, a little more like, I'm not going to do that right now. Or
Let me think
like,
about that.
I'm not going to listen to you. I am going to go like sit on the couch and I'm just going to ignore you right now. So it's kind of a good moment for them to come back. And it's like, you're sending them off to college where it's like, they're coming back here. They're going to have a little bit more structure. And then as they continue to mature, they'll finally kind of figure out the pecking order and who they need to listen to and when.
I love that. I actually just recently met somebody in a networking call, and she said her daughter has like a dog phobia, like really scared of dogs.
Mhm.
And so she said they did that. They fostered a puppy like that, to see whether the daughter would get used to it. Like, no, didn't work.
Yeah,
So
because
she was
puppies
definitely
are a
happy
lot.
for the puppy to go back because the daughter wasn't playing along. Like
Yeah,
it didn't help because puppy then come and she said, oh, then I had scratches and the kid then
yeah,
got scared. So that, but
yeah.
yeah, they did it for that reason. They were happy to give the puppy back at the time.
Yeah, the puppies don't have a ton of boundaries and like they're teething, so they are like a little mouthy. So it is tough if you're trying to get someone used to a puppy to be like, here you go. I mean, some of our puppies are on the chiller side. So when we have like a new nursery team come in, we kind of gauge like what's your lifestyle. We'll match them with a puppy that we think matches their lifestyle really well. But a puppy is a puppy. The puppy can be the calmest one in the litter, but that doesn't mean that's their like going to be their personality all the time. They're going to have bursts of excitement. They're going to have moments like when they're tired and they just want to chew something, or they need to relieve stress and they just want to chew. And it might be your clothes, just depending on like what's the nearest item to them. And then we kind of are, every step of the way with our nursery teams kind of guiding them. We'll like instead of doing this, how about you redirect them to this chew toy instead?
And I'm just curious, how does one get into a job like that? You know, because I would imagine lots, I mean, is that something that you've always knew you wanted? I want to work with puppies, or did you kind of end up there through some unexpected turbulences in life?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to work with animals, and I think like a lot of other millennials, I was on the path of, oh, I want to do like marine biology, right? Like the ocean's so fascinating. So I ended up going to Roger Williams in Rhode Island, and I studied marine bio, which was amazing. I kind of realized like I didn't want to do like research, and I wanted to work directly with animals. So I'm originally from Long Island, so I ended up working and volunteering at the New York Aquarium and then eventually working at the Long Island Aquarium. And that was where I learned the psychology of animal training and animal behavior. Um, you know, Positive reinforcement and operant conditioning. So when I say yes, the dog has like a signal in its brain that it's going to be rewarded. So that yes is in itself rewarding, and that you're more likely to get an animal to continue to do certain commands or behaviors that you want by giving them a reward for doing those things. So I was at the Long Island Aquarium. I was working with a whole bunch of animals, mainly seals and sea lions, but I was also the primary caretaker of prehensile tailed porcupines, which, if you've never seen them, they're the cutest animals in the whole world. Little terrestrial animals that we would train little different commands, like just touching them or picking them up or having them like grab our fingers with their paws. Very cute. So I learned a lot about training, a lot about animals. And when I was moving to Connecticut, I was looking to kind of get away from the zoo world, and I was looking to still work with animals, but in a different capacity. And just in my search, had kind of stumbled upon ECAD. And when I applied, there was just an opening for the puppy department. So I actually came in not really with a ton of dog experience, but with a lot of helpful training and just general animal experience, because it does kind of carry over to all animals. And then I kind of just learned all of the dog experience while I was here, all of the like how to groom and all of the like vet care that goes into it.
I love it. I love it. So how are dogs different from, you know, the sea animals kind of thing that you knew before?
Yeah, dogs are actually so different. It was so interesting when I started working here because we train the same, where, we're doing a session with the dog. We're kind of one-on-one with the dog. I mean, sometimes here we work more than one dog at a time, but generally you're kind of one-on-one with the dog doing a session. So you have food on you, you're asking them for commands or training them to do commands, and you're rewarding them when they do it correctly. And we would do the same thing at the aquarium as well. However, you're working with like an 800-pound sea lion that when they don't want to do a command for you and they want to just take a swim in their habitat, what are you going to do? You can't do anything about that. You're kind of just like, okay, see you later. And they go do their thing. And then we stand there and we wait. And if they don't come back, we come back 20 minutes later. Here's the rest of your food, because that's like, a misconception of the zoo world. Like, we don't starve them. That is their like dinner, but they get it at the end of the day, even if they didn't decided not to do anything. But here we're working with animals that have to be, they have to be on, and they are in a sense working. So if they don't want to work for their client and go retrieve their medication for them, well, that becomes very dangerous. So if the dog doesn't want to work for us, we can't just say bye, but we also don't want to force them to work. So it's our job to like make working the most fun thing in the world, so that they're motivated to work and get the med bag and do those things that might be an emergency situation. Like, in their brain, they have to think it's fun to do it. Um, so that was like a fun little difference where I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's a lot of work to work with dogs, because you are having fun too, but it's also like a little bit of acting where you're like, okay, like if you're not motivated, then I have to be like all the way up here. So that way I get you to come up and meet me and be excited. So it's really different. And, we work the dogs longer because they're going to be working all day with the people. So it was very interesting. Like sometimes I'm like, "Damn, working the seals was a little bit easier."
And that's interesting. See, I would have for some reason have thought that there's sort of more connection with the dog and it'd be easier with the dog.
There's definitely more bonding with the dogs,
Mm.
like, I would like to say that the animals at the aquarium knew me, recognized me, enjoyed hanging out with me and being with me, but at the end of the day, they're not, like, domesticated, so they're kinda just like, "Sup, let's work, I'll, take my banana and my corn, and then, like, I'm gonna go do my own thing," and the dogs definitely, like, have a desire to be with us, so it does make that connection and fun and motivation that we have to give them does make that aspect a little bit easier. Um, but yeah, it's it's an interesting it's definitely very different.
I bet, I bet. So, what's like out of all the different clients you've had, what are some things that because I just mentioned earlier, I had just published an episode with somebody in a wheelchair talking about what her
Yeah.
dog does for her, right? And she shared a bunch of things that are like, oh my God, I had no
Mhm.
idea, right? So it was the oh well, he has to basically the dog had to pull on the blanket and help her turn around in the bed like she's in a wheelchair, so there's
Mhm.
and get the wheelchair away from the shower to the shower for her to come in and out and open drawers, and there's certain things that you kind of well I've imagined, yeah, that's what the dog will do. But the stuff she shared, there was so much stuff like, oh, I had no idea the dog could do that. What are the sort of some things that dogs who've gone through your process have done for clients that people might not expect?
Yeah, so to kind of go over the basics first, so when the dogs are in advanced training, they learn over 80 different commands that are kind of like where we start with them. So obviously they're basic commands. You got your sit, down, stay. Down and stay are super important when they're going out in public. They just rest in those public spaces. Um, then once they kind of start to get closer to a year and a half to 2, we do more advanced commands. So all of our dogs can open a refrigerator, get out a water bottle and retrieve it and bring it to the person. All of our dogs, by the time they can graduate, can hop up on a wall and turn a light switch on and off. All of our dogs will be able to take laundry out of a like front loading washer dryer that has like a little rope on it and open doors. So all of our dogs will learn that. When we have our clients come in, we do 1 to 2 interviews with them. Maybe the first one, we're kind of just getting to know them. And then the second interview involves, well, let's walk with a few dogs. Let's figure out where your pace is. So that way, when you come in, we kind of know what dogs we're going to like gear you towards. As well as the clients will tell us in those interviews what they're exactly looking the dog like for the dog to do for them. So our wheelchair clients are looking for dogs to open doors for them, retrieve items for them. More specifically, sometimes too, we had a client that could not use her arms. So not only did she want the dog to retrieve the item for her, but she wanted the dog to retrieve the item and put it in her mouth for her. So the clients will tell us those things when they come in, and then we can kind of prep the dog for that. We'll choose the dog. We don't choose what dog goes to what client beforehand, but we have a pretty good idea of at least 2 or 3 dogs that we think will be good for that client. Then when they come in, they bond, they work together, they find what fits. Um, but we can kind of go over what commands they want that are specialty commands, and then we train those when they're closer to like a year and a half to 2. So some other ones that we've had, we had a woman come in who was very allergic. She is a veteran and she had gotten and developed really severe allergies. So it was very difficult for her to go out in public because she had allergies to everything like Clorox, bleach, lavender, patchouli, which is in most perfumes. So if she were to go out to a restaurant and they had just cleaned, or the table next to her was wearing perfume, she would have a very severe allergic reaction, and a lot of the times it would result in a hospitalization. So we were able to, she came in, we chatted with her, and we felt, we can train a dog to sniff out these different smells for you. So the dog, they're at a threshold of a door, the dog kind of goes in, takes a sniff, and if there's something dangerous in that room, the dog will lift their paw up to notify her that it's too dangerous to enter. And although I don't remember like the exact numbers, the amount of hospitalizations and allergic reactions that the woman had since getting the dog had gone down so significantly, and her confidence of going out in public places has gone up so much. I think there was a little article about her in the news as well. But just like if we feel like the dog can do what the person needs, then we're more than happy to give it a try.
I love that. I see that's something I would have never imagined, right? I mean, so how do clients come to you? Like, do people like find you? Like, say that lady, for example, how did she even know that you exist? And how does somebody who gets, say, on a waiting list, or, how do you choose who gets a dog? And also, like, how much does that cost? Like, that sounds like massively expensive.
Yeah, so everyone who is interested in a dog will apply to us from our website, ecad1.org. That's ECAD1, the number one.org. And we have an application process there. Once you apply, you will hear back from our client care specialist, and that kind of gets the entire process started. There is fundraising involved, so the dogs are about $25,000 to $30,000, but it's all through fundraising. So we have a fundraising specialist that will help set up different campaigns and all sorts of fundraisers. So that way that overhead is not so daunting. We are a nonprofit, so everything that we are doing is through donations, and we have a lot of wonderful donors too that will help donate to um, different campaigns to get clients their dogs as well. The turnaround time is about 2 years. So pretty much once you apply, we assume it's going to take about 2 years to go through the interview process, the fundraising process, and then by the end of that, they will come to campus to get their dog and be paired with their dog.
That's fascinating. So, do you have like vet organizations or like people who kind of send people your way, or do people find you from like their own research?
I think most people probably find us through their own research. The circle of, guide dog foundations and other service dog facilities is a pretty like tight community. So if someone applies to another service dog organization with something that's maybe a little bit more niche, they might send them our way because we do kind of deal with a little bit more niche clients, whereas other facilities might just work with kids or just work with veterans. So we have other organizations sending people to us. I think it's a lot of word of mouth as well. Once our dogs are out there working, I think they shine. So if someone sees them in public and is looking for a service dog, they're like, well, that looks like a really wonderful service dog for me. We also take clients from all over the United States. We've had, I think our furthest client was from like Hawaii. So all over the place, we have on campus like a dormitory room. So they can come from, far over the United States and come in and stay. And they don't have to, buy a hotel room. So we can accommodate all of the United States. And we've placed probably about 500 service dogs in the
Oh,
30 years that we've been open to people all over the place.
that's fascinating. So do you like, is there like a lot of demand, and very like, obviously there's a limit to how many puppies you can get ready in a certain amount of time. So do you find you have like a long waiting list, or is it sort of fairly easy to get in?
Yeah, the waiting list we really try to keep at about like 2 years. So if that means, if we know we can hopefully up production for the future years, and the goal is always to continue growing. We do find that the demand is really high. I think service dogs are relatively new to the last 30 years. I think ECAD was pretty early getting in there when they started. And I think the demand is growing for them because people see what they are capable of. And that only shows that we can do so much more. If they're capable of this, like we can continue to grow all of the organizations and help all sorts of people with whatever physical disability they might have, because it really is a spectrum, even if it's the same disability, of what that person needs from potentially another person. And then if we can minimize that person needing to have a nurse or have their parents follow them everywhere and give them a dog, that is totally has always been the mission since ECAD started. So we're trying to keep that wait time of 2 years because we really don't want it to be any more. And in order to do that, we're continuing to grow. So hopefully, producing more puppies and training more service dogs. I would say right now we're probably placing about 20 to 25 service dogs a year. And by the end of next year, hoping that it's closer to 30. And every year, just training more staff to be able to train all of these dogs and choosing more breeders to produce us more healthy puppies. And yeah, it'll be really amazing, the next 5, 10 years of ECAD. We got some big plans, so we're hoping to grow a lot over the next few years.
I love it. I love it. So where can people, get in touch and find out more and contact you? And what's the easiest place to go to?
Yeah, so the best place will be our website, ecad1.org. There, people can learn if they want service dogs. They can learn about how to help people who want service dogs by donating either their time or money. So we have a few different volunteer opportunities if anyone who is listening is in the Connecticut area, or if you can't volunteer with your time. Like I said, we're a nonprofit, so donations go a long way in helping feed our dogs, helping our clients get paired with their dogs, and all of that really good stuff. We are also on Facebook, which is a really wonderful way to get updates about all of the dogs that we have on campus. And we do go live on a website called explore.org. If you search and Google ECAD Explore, we are live every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we show you what's going on with the puppies and what's going on in the training center.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. This is so insightful because I think I'm just remembering the guest I had, and for her, having a dog like that, she said it's the difference between needing 24-hour care and being
Mhm.
able to live on my own. Like it's massive. It's not just like a nice to have. It really gives people independence and freedom in their lives. It's huge. So thank you. Thanks for the work you do, and thanks for sharing all of this because I think people need to know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy to talk about what we do here at ECAD.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. Head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for the weekly treat. Tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, at soultouchedbydogs.com.